Indianapolis Colts quarterback Daniel Jones deserves to be in the MVP conversation through 6 weeks. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for making Locked On Colts your first listen today and every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every single detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward, Mazda, Move and Be Moved. Hello everyone, my name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of horseshoehuddle.com, and my partner Jake Arthur is the credentialed boots on the ground for Round Table Sports. Today we have a big conversation piece coming to you guys talking about the Colts players and coaches being in award discussions through 6 weeks. The Colts are sitting at 5-1, one of the best teams in football, the best offense in the league currently, and there is a lot of credit that is deservingly here to be thrown out at some of these people. So we're going to talk about Daniel Jones in the MVP race. He doesn't really have the highest odds right now, and Jake in particular is very passionate about pushing back against that. Then we're going to talk about two other award races that seem to be better chances for Colts players: Jonathan Taylor in the Offensive Player of the Year race and Shane Steichen in the Coach of the Year race. But yeah, guys, I know it's early. We're only 6 weeks into this thing. But just think of this conversation more so about giving credit to these guys and talking about how well they've played through 6 weeks rather than like us declaring that they're going to win these awards and stuff like that. And let's kick this off with Daniel Jones, Jake, where, Daniel Jones, I think you can put him up there with among the best quarterbacks in the league this year. I don't know. Again, I don't know what else he needs to do this year to show that he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league in 2025. He's second in total EPA, tied for second in EPA per play with 0.29, first in QBR, third in completion percentage, seventh in yards, fifth in yards per attempt. Again, if you told me that before the season, that he would have an 8.3 yards per attempt, I would have called you crazy. And tied for the least sacked quarterback in the league. And look, sacks are as much a quarterback stat as they are an offensive line stat. So Daniel Jones has just been fantastic through 6 weeks. And he's also played two very good defenses in the Cardinals and the Denver Broncos. So it's not like he's only beating up on the bottom of the league. So Jake, why is he 9th on FanDuel in MVP race odds or whatever right now?
Real quick, Zach, because some news just broke as we were doing our intro, and I don't want it to get totally buried. The Colts just placed Anthony Richardson on IR because of his orbital bone fracture, which is kind of to be expected. They also, to fill that spot, they claimed safety Ruben Lowry from the Ravens. Never heard of him. We'll look more into him. Maybe you've heard of him. But yeah, little bit of news happening at the very tip top of the show there. But yeah, so let's talk about Daniel Jones real quick. FanDuel has his odds at plus 3,300. He's tied for 9th. Basically a bunch of other quarterbacks ahead of him who, they're quarterbacking really, really good teams, but those teams don't have the record the Colts do. The Colts currently have the number 1 record in the entire league right now. And again, Zach mentioned this at the front. This is not me pushing for Jones to be the MVP. I just think he deserves to be higher than tied for 9th. As the quarterback of the top team in the NFL right now. And just like the most basic, bare naked criteria for NFL MVP is usually the quarterback for the top team right now. And so even just by that, I think pushes him right in there. But you mentioned all those stats. The guy statistically is meeting the mark and then some. He has exceeded expectations. Even for those who were optimistic about him coming to the Colts, did not expect this. Even at the beginning, the first couple weeks, you and I were like, it looks like he is doing some things that he looks legitimately good, but we don't expect this level of productivity every week. Well, guess what? We're wrong because he has been productive each and every week. I think he's met 70% completions in all but like one game. I think he's been above 100 passer rating in pretty much every game except for one. The guy has been as consistent as it gets. For me, he's got the 2 fourth quarter comebacks as well, which another knock on him was, you better get a lead early with him because I don't think he's going to be winning shootouts. or I don't think he's going to be bringing this team back. And this is a very well-rounded offense. It has not been just him, but this is a lot of guys, with the exception of Tyler Warren. All of these guys have been here for a while. You know what I mean? And this is not how it's looked. They finally got a quarterback, though, that can make it look like this. And he's meshing very, very well with Shane Steichen. It's a very good marriage here. Daniel Jones deserves a ton of credit for how this thing looks right now. And I just think, you put, let's say Richardson wins the quarterback competition. I mean, you and I have already admitted that we were wrong there, but if Anthony Richardson wins this, I don't think this team is having the same success as if Daniel Jones, if he was not doing what he's doing. So
yeah,
I think, he's got to keep it up. I think people dog on the Colts' strength of schedule and the teams that they beat and this and that, but it's like, should they not have done that? Like, what would you be saying about the Colts if they would not have won those games, or if they would not have killed those three teams by 21 plus points? I just think it's weird because a lot of people are talking about Daniel Jones, but somehow he is a bit too low for me in these odds.
Yeah, well, to push back on the strength of schedule thing real quick, the Colts have a harder strength of schedule than the Bills right now. And the Bills are also, but just because we expected the Bills to be good, we don't jog on it too much. But yeah, the Colts have a harder strength of schedule. They have a more quality loss. I mean, look, the Patriots are a fine football team, but they have the easiest strength of schedule in football, where the Colts lost on the road to the Rams, So I'll table that for another discussion, obviously. But I think the problem with Daniel Jones right now is he's getting the Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy treatment, where look, Brock Purdy, the year that Lamar Jackson won his MVP, his second MVP, Brock Purdy had every single statistical thing over, like pretty much every statistical thing over him in terms of EPA per play, yards per attempt, like every single thing pointing to him being the MVP. But it's all a narrative award. MVP is not a performance award. It's a narrative award. And the narrative there was the skill position players around Brock Purdy and the play calling around him was the reason why he was so successful. It wasn't him, where Lamar Jackson got the benefit of he's a special player and it's time that he gets one. Or gets another one, I guess, because he already got his one that he deserved in 2019 or 2018, whatever it was. So I think Daniel Jones is getting a little bit of that treatment where a lot of people are acknowledging, oh, Shane Steichen's awesome. He took the Eagles to the Super Bowl. Oh, Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, Tyler Warren, this offensive line, they're all awesome. So it's like a way to discount Daniel Jones. But to your credit, Jake, this Colts offense has never been this good with any other quarterback but Daniel Jones. So how can we discount what Daniel Jones is doing for the Colts this year? I understand wanting to give the credit to Shane Steichen and other players on this offense because I don't think Daniel Jones is reinventing the wheel this year. He's not doing these superhuman aspects every single Sunday, but he's just playing really good football. And I think the thing that separates him even from like a Garoppolo and to a degree a Purdy, I think Purdy's pretty solid as a quarterback as well. But Daniel Jones has performed so well under pressure this year, so well under pressure, under duress. So whenever he's been asked to do more than what the system asked him to do, he's been fantastic for the Colts. Honestly, all three of his interceptions have come from clean pockets. They haven't come from the muddy pockets. The muddy pockets, he's been great. The 2 fourth quarter drives, like you mentioned, Jake, to win games have been great. So yeah, I don't know what the issue is right now. And I think it's because it's a narrative award. I think it's more narrative based. Why is Jordan Love above Daniel Jones to start this year? Pat Mahomes, I think, is catching fire.
Mahomes just went up to number 2 after that, and didn't they start like 0-2 or so?
And he's having a fine season. He's having a fine season, but like Daniel Jones has been the better quarterback this year in terms of how he's performing. So yeah, I mean, look, if it were purely based off of performance, we would be talking about Brock Purdy having an MVP, and we'd be talking about Lamar Jackson having one last year. But it's not about performance. It's about the narrative. Whose turn is it this year? And the narrative right now is all around Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield has the narrative. Josh Allen, I guess, kind of has it as the reigning guy as well. But those are your front runners because the narrative. I think it would take Daniel Jones doing some special things in primetime games to get him up there.
Yes.
But I do want to just use this segment to say again, if you're not a believer in what Daniel Jones is doing with the Colts so far this year, I don't know what else you need to see. Again, I was as out as you can be on him coming into the year, but I've seen all I need to see to at least say this is a good starting quarterback in a great spot, and he's playing confident and comfortable with the Colts. I'm bought in on him the rest of this season, and hopefully he gets extended if he continues this play. So regardless of MVP, All-Pro, Pro Bowl talk with Daniel Jones, I think he's been playing some great football this year, and I'm excited to celebrate that, and I'm hoping it continues. If he can get the Colts into the bye week at 7-3 or 8-2, this is going to be a playoff season for the Colts, and we're going to be looking at Daniel Jones as the guy who got the Colts in the playoffs, and that's reason to celebrate.
Yeah, and arguably two of the biggest reasons why people aren't talking about Jones as much for the MVP conversation is because of Shane Steichen and Jonathan Taylor, both of whom are actually leading their odds for a couple of certain awards, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. You know the saying, look good, feel good? Well, the problem is that most dress clothes only check one of those boxes. They look sharp, but they feel stiff, hot, and they're high maintenance. But that's why there's Mizzen & Main. Mizzen & Main makes classic menswear with performance fabric, so it's effortless to look sharp and feel comfortable. They actually invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago, and they've perfected it ever since. Their shirts are stretchy, moisture-wicking, wrinkle-resistant, and machine washable. No ironing, no dry cleaning. I love that you can go from the office to dinner or even out on the golf course and still feel comfortable all day. It's the feel of athletic wear, but the look of professional menswear. If you're like me, you don't go to many nice events, or, I work from home or at the Colts facility or the stadium. I don't have to get all gussied up all the time. It's very rare. So sometimes I'm not caught up on what my wardrobe needs to be. But when you got stuff like Mizzen & Main, it does check those boxes. It's not all stiff, so you hop in your car and worry that it's going to be all wrinkled. It's not super hot. It's breathable. You don't feel like it's just constricting you with a tucked in shirt. Like, it's all very, very legit. And right now, Mizzen & Main is offering our listeners 20% off of your first purchase at mizzenandmain.com with promo code LOCKEDONNFL20. That's Mizzen, spelled M-I-Z-Z-E-N, and Main, M-A-I-N.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNFL20 for 20% off. And if you'd rather shop in person, you could find Mizzen & Main stores in select states.
This episode is also brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that are more than just put the points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward for the Indianapolis Colts was obviously their game-winning touchdown by Jonathan Taylor. Late in the fourth quarter, the Colts sell the quarterback sneak, pitch it out wide to Jonathan Taylor, and he's able to walk into the end zone off a great block by wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. That moved the game forward and moved the Colts record forward to 5-1 this past weekend. And when you guys follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, Locked On Colts everydayers, we are back with our conversation about Colts being in award conversations. I never would have thought I would have had this conversation. I never thought I would lead a show in the offseason saying that Daniel Jones should be in the MVP conversation after 6 weeks, but here we are. And another player who I think deserves his flowers and has a much better chance at winning his award is Jonathan Taylor for Offensive Player of the Year. This was a two-man race until this past weekend because Puka Nacua was doing some record-setting stuff with the Rams. Ironically, the last time Jonathan Taylor was in the conversation for Offensive Player of the Year, he got beat out by historic Rams wide receiver in Cooper Kupp back in 2021. But right now, he's the odds-on favorite to be the Offensive Player of the Year. He's number one in rushing by over 100 yards, number one in rushing touchdowns and total touchdowns. 5.2 yards per carry. If you look back at his last 11 games, he's got 1,300 yards rushing going back to late last season. Over his last 17 games, it's almost 1,800 yards rushing. The current version of Jonathan Taylor is the best version we have ever seen. Yeah. And he's not only doing it as a rusher, he is catching the ball exceptionally well. There was a pass blocking clip from this past weekend. I know this has happened all year long with him, but from this past weekend where he decleated Budda Baker, carried him 3 yards, turned around and caught the ball and nearly got a first down on 3rd and 7. And I'm just watching this guy saying, this is the best version of Taylor I've ever seen. And he was already on a Ring of Honor / Hall of Fame trajectory before this year. So I don't know what training regimen he did prior to the year, but Jonathan Taylor, I think as of right now, like if he stays healthy and keeps this up, it's not only Offensive Player of the Year award. Like I think he's gonna get MVP votes. Like he won't get the MVP, but I think he'll get votes if he continues this play. He's gonna have like 2,000 total yards, the pace he's going, and he's playing just exceptional football.
Without question. Like going into last week, he was already on pace for a career high in receptions per season. I think he was on pace for 52. He added 4 more, which is now more than he's had in each of the last 2 years. His catches were only in the teens the last couple of years, but now he's already broken that. Very well rounded. Like you mentioned, his pass pro is as good as it's ever been, it's refreshing because a guy with those physical skills, and he's a smart football player. Like you wanted him to be better in pass pro. You wanted him to have better hands, which some guys never develop that, but it's just like magically over the offseason, he became this incredibly well-rounded 3-down player. But yeah, to your credit, like this is the best we've seen him. And it's not just he was winning with like explosion and just beating guys on foot races back in 2021, but he is fighting his way through garbage like right now. Like he's getting good blocking, but he is finding the smallest creases to power and high step through and get through. And he's a tireless worker. Like he adds stuff every like new off season. And a big influence of his has been Frank Gore. And I'm starting to see that in his game a little bit. Frank Gore was kind of a shorter guy like Jonathan Taylor is as well, able to get through those tiny creases and make yourself so small and just you find holes, you create yards. And that's the difference between effective running backs and special ones is they create their own yards. And Jonathan Taylor has done that since he came into the league, but he's doing it in a whole different way now. And he's right now the odds-on favorite for Offensive Player of the Year, plus 150 odds. So it's like you're not even going to make anything off of that. The next closest is Jackson Smith and Jigba at plus 430. Now that Nakua's hurt, like you mentioned, so he's comfortably the favorite there. He's also comfortably the leading rusher by 127 yards. He's got the most rushing touchdowns and the most total touchdowns in the NFL. He has 8. The next closest has 6. That's Josh Jacobs. So yeah, the dude is on a tear, and he's getting fed the ball. He's getting over 20 touches per game, especially again now that he's catching like 4 or 5 balls per game as well. He's just such an enormous part of the offense. You hope they can keep it up and that, there's no like significant wear and tear as the season goes on. But right now he's not carrying the offense again because there's so much other positive things going on, but he is their recipe for winning games. You've mentioned it all year. They're softening things up in the first half with Jones peppering guys and getting everyone involved. And then by the second half, defenses are just not ready to take 12 carries from Jonathan Taylor as he barrels his way 8 yards per carry or so each run in the second half. And that's the crazy thing is he is getting better as the games go on and just overwhelming defenses when they are at their most vulnerable. It's like a cheat code for them.
Yeah, no, I think the most fascinating part of this is he's not the entire offense. Like he wasn't like 2021 for most of the year, he was the entire offense for the Colts. This year, he is the most important complementary piece, but he's not the entire offense. The offense is built around setting him up to dominate the second half of games, but it doesn't start strong with him. The Colts take the ball when they get the opportunity, and they come out throwing to put points on the board early. And then once they have you in a tied situation or a neutral situation in the second half, you get the Jonathan Taylor treatment. And like you said, he's averaging like 80 yards rushing per second half, but he's averaging only like 15 to 20 yards rushing in the first half because they're not using him as a runner in half one.
He had 65, I think, in the first half on Sunday, and that was the most he's had in a first half, and he's had however many 100-yard games so far.
Right. So he's the most important complementary piece of the offense, but he's not the entire offense, which makes me think it's sustainable. And as the Colts get into more games where they're trailing or not in neutral situations, his carry load will lessen. He's been carrying the ball a lot because they've been killing teams in all these games. But one aspect I really want to compliment him on is I saw an interview that he did prior to the season. I want to say it was with Colts.com. To give credit there, but I have to look at it. What he said that the most important thing that he was focusing on coming to the year was not having negative carries, was making sure that every carry was falling forward and getting positive yards. And if we look at him through these first 6 games, he's the best among all starting running backs in run stuff percentage. It's only like 8% on the year. Like the next closest running back, it's like 11 or 12%. And you can see it on Sundays. There are plenty of plays where, look, a Colts blocker will miss a block. They've been exceptional this year, but occasionally they miss a block and he sidesteps them, or he puts 2 hands on that ball and just drives his legs forward and gets 7 yards on a play that should have got 1, should have got 0. He has been just a superstar. Like, this is another level. Like, this is different from even his Wisconsin days, his 2021 day with the Colts. Like, we say so much this is a very different Daniel Jones we've seen this year, but honestly, to me, this is a very different Jonathan Taylor we've seen this year as well. And he deserves all the credit. I can't say a negative thing about him this year. He has just been absolutely fantastic. And I could do entire episodes talking about Jonathan Taylor's play this year. But we have more to talk about on this one here. We're going to talk about Shane Steichen, a coach that was on the hot seat coming into the year. I think he was the odds-on favorite to be the first coach fired coming into this season.
Yeah.
Now it looks like the easy coach of the year choice for the league. And we're going to talk about how that's exactly happened for him this season.
When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need new parts fast for a project, then Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The Part Finder tool and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process super smooth. So join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off of your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service.
And guys, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It just makes watching football so much more exciting when you got a little bit on the action. I mean, that London game was dreadful to watch this past weekend, but FanDuel could have made it something worth watching or tuning into at 9 a.m. To watch some of the ugliest offensive football in the history of the sport. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Alrighty, Locked On Colts everydayers. I just lambasted the Jets and the Broncos for their horrible offensive performance this past week. But you know who hasn't been horrible on offense this year? The Indianapolis Colts. They have been fantastic in every single game. They're averaging, 32.3 points per game this season. Just a casual 32.3 points per game this year. 33.5 points per game at home this year. They lead the NFL in total points and obviously in points per game. All this comes with the offensive head coach, Shane Steichen, that, again, was the leading candidate to be fired in season by a lot of betting sites coming into the year. But at least for us here, Jake, even when we talked about firing Shane Steichen, it was like always with a heavy heart, because we were very big Shane Steichen guys. And a lot of our Shane Steichen criticism and like if he needs to be fired was more so they just need to restart this thing after whiffing on Anthony Richardson and just, restart everything here after the season. But now that he has a quarterback, we're seeing what the offense can look like. So the ascension of Daniel Jones has meant the ascension of Shane Steichen back into our good graces. And, we always believe that this guy could be the coach for the Colts. And we are seeing what his offense looks like when he has someone like Daniel Jones, and it's pretty darn good. So, yeah, I think as of right now, Shane Steichen needs to be the front runner for coach of the year. I think there are a couple other really good coaches that, like Liam Cohen's doing a great job with the Jaguars, who are just a bottom tier team in the league. I think Todd Bowles is doing great with Baker Mayfield and that really banged up Buccaneers team. And even McDonald over there in Seattle is doing a great job too. But what Shane Steichen has done with a quarterback that only 2 teams wanted this offseason. Daniel Jones only had 2 offers, from the Vikings to be a backup and the Colts to compete for a starting job. And he's turning him into an MVP candidate that we just spent a whole segment raving on at the top of the show. So I think Shane Steichen is the clear favorite as of right now. And if they continue this thing and they win 11, 12 games and win the division, I think he's a shoo-in for that award.
Yeah, they typically give this award out to just the coach on the best team, if there's like a team that's head and shoulders above the rest, or the head coach for kind of a turnaround team. And that's what we're seeing here. And I think we're seeing the Shane Steichen now that Chris Ballard and Jim Irsay envisioned when they hired him. The offensive whiz, but they have finally given him the tools to be that offensive whiz. I mean, it's worked out on the offensive line. That was going to be kind of a question point because you're bringing in 2 new starters and Bortolini and Gonzalez. Braden Smith returns from his hiatus last year. And then Daniel Jones. That was a huge leap of faith. And Shane Steichen, just, looking back over it and just the clues I missed or overlooked all offseason, I think this is what Shane Steichen wanted to work with Daniel Jones the whole time, because the reasons he picked him were things that Anthony could have never really done by the end of training camp. And you can see they are one as a brain on the field. I fully feel like they are seeing and thinking the same things. And from talking to both of them and from watching them on the field and everything, it's just been a perfect marriage. And for people who, boo-hoo Daniel Jones for being a system quarterback, well, welcome to the system. If you are anti-Daniel Jones, and you kind of have to be pro Shane Steichen here, Shane Steichen was given a dynamic tight end for the first time with the Colts, a quarterback who could just raise the quarterback play to a baseline level of at least average, and it's looking really good. It's looking more than that because Daniel Jones has given you upper crust quarterback play so far. And then I think another big part of being the coach, it's not just necessarily stuff on the field, but the accountability. We've seen, I mean, they've got more competition in the building, so they can kind of afford to do this now. But when guys make big mistakes that like cost the team, or they're just not holding up their end of the bargain or whatever it is, they're now facing repercussions for that. And that's something that they just weren't necessarily doing before. I mean, we questioned them endlessly about it in the second half of last year. Like, we didn't make it fun for Shane Steichen to come to media availability last year. But now, I mean, things have changed. And Shane Steichen has remained consistent from the day he got in Indy. But I just think they have everybody around. They have all the right pieces in place, from the coaching staff to the players, who are bought in and moving in one direction. Because I continuously hear about the brotherhood and togetherness of this team, the message and consistency from Shane. If you ask any players big picture questions, especially the veterans, about why this team feels different, I'm pretty sure every single one of them has tied it back to Shane and his message, his consistency, and his expectations. So not only are the Colts like the top team in the league right now, which may or may not remain the case throughout the season, but he is an enormous reason why this, 53-man roster in the practice squad, coaching staff, all of it is going together in one direction.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just to stick with the offense side of the ball real quick, to give him the full credit with with what's going on, just the chameleon aspect of what he's doing. This is why we were so high on him when the Colts hired him. Was, he had the success with Hurts and with Justin Herbert before, 2 very different quarterbacks. But if we look at like what he did with both Richardson and Hurts, right, his 2 prior quarterbacks, and even Gardner Minshew, we can lump into this as well. None of those quarterbacks really liked pre-snap motion. They didn't really, I mean, they liked RPOs, but they didn't really love play action as much either, turning their back to the defense and reading it. And what we've seen with Daniel Jones this year is a vastly different offense. They're like one of the best teams in the NFL in terms of pre-snap motion on passing plays, nearly 60% this season. They're second in the NFL in play action usage, like true play action usage, which I think is right up there with the Detroit Lions and with the Los Angeles Rams as the top teams in the league of play action usage. So he has revamped his defense. He has changed what his typical easy buttons are for his quarterback, where with Hurts, with Minshew, and even with Richardson, a lot of it was empty personnel and like QB runs and RPO stuff. We do still have some RPOs this year, but it's mostly play action and pre-snap motion with those guys this season. And it's working for Daniel Jones. So he found new easy buttons for his offense. He's added completely new personnel groupings. He's never had a 13 personnel grouping in his time with the Colts. They have a 13 personnel grouping this year. They've barely done any fullback stuff in the past, going back to any of his days in the NFL. They have a whole fullback package that keeps expanding week over week. They ran 8 fullback plays this past weekend with Tyler Warren in the backfield. And they're just so diverse in what they're doing. And Shane Steichen just came into this season very prepared with Daniel Jones, and both of them are operating at such a high level. And you give a lot of credit to what Steichen's been able to do, again, with a quarterback that the whole league was ready to cast off, that we were ready to cast off on this show as well. They've just been fantastic. So Shane Steichen, like you said, for everything, Jake, like just being a head coach, winning the days on Sunday, getting everyone on the same message, holding guys accountable have been great. But Shane Steichen, the offensive whiz kid that he was hired to be, has very much come to fruition this season. He is maximizing the talent around Daniel Jones. He's maximizing Daniel Jones himself, and they are leaning into things that work. And they're putting up 33 points a game in the NFL. Like,
yep, number one scoring.
And this is with, again, their starting offense has not played in 3 fourth quarters this year. They have 3 fewer quarters played than any other starting offense in the league right now, outside of teams that have had their bye weeks. So, like, it could be even bigger. They could be averaging 40 points a game if they kept their starters out there in games where they had to. So, yeah, this offense is clicking, and Shane Steichen's a huge part of it, and I think he deserves his flowers. But that's all we have for our overly positive show today, guys, our extremely positive show using award conversations to give rightful hype to Daniel Jones, Jonathan Taylor, and Shane Steichen. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow afternoon to talk about potential trades. That's a juicy piece of the puzzle here. And this might be one of the first times, I guess, since 2022 when they traded a player away, that we think the Colts could be active at the trade deadline. So tomorrow's episode, it's going to be all about the trades, because I think one could be coming for the Colts here in the next week or two, or at least 2. I mean, they have plenty of needs on defense, and we're going to talk about that on upcoming shows. But thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen today and every day. This NFL season is finally here, so for your next listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler the Madman Rowland gives you a shot of NFL espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. You guys want to become a Locked On Colts insider and chat with us directly and get that insider scoop, follow the link in our show notes. And if you don't already, make sure you're following at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2, all on socials. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We love your guys' ratings and reviews, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow afternoon.